All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready? Here we go.
When I was very young, I learnt that life is harder if you don't blend in. We moved house when I was 8, just as I was beginning to establish my circle of friends. I arrived in a new town and at a new school in the middle of a term. I had a posh accent because we didn't come from the Cornish farming area where we'd moved to. But my parents were really poor. I had to wear a school uniform, but they couldn't afford the money for the jacket. So unlike the other kids, I didn't have a jacket. Coupled with that, I didn't like sports, I didn't like football, I liked playing music, and I was a teacher's pet. So I didn't blend in at all. I got made fun of, I got bullied on bad days. But after a while, I actually started to get used to it. I got used to not blending in, and I started to realize that it was a strength. And the more that I went through life, the more I was glad that I didn't blend in. I wanted to be different, I wanted to be recognized, and I wanted to stand out, and I stopped caring that people thought that I was strange or different. I decided that blending in is for losers. But despite this touching childhood story, my talk is not autobiographical. It's about why blending in is for losers, and it's about all the wonderful worlds that I discovered when not blending in is a plus, not a minus. I discovered Cheese World, and I'm not talking about the industrially produced mountains of bland cheddar or Monterey Jack or La Vache qui rit. I'm talking about the good stuff, stinky blue cheese, washed rinds, unctuous creamy textures. A good Parmesan or Comté with a super mature, high acid tanginess, or Epoisse, a cheese so stinky that it's hard to believe how delicious it is when you put it into your mouth. Ripe camembert with its bark of ammonia. And the zenith of cheese making, raw milk cheese or au lait cru. I like to think of raw milk cheese as the natural wine of cheese. But it's not a fringe activity that's hated and denied by cheese journalists. Quite the opposite. If you're into cheese, raw milk is the badge that shows that you're serious. It shows that you understand where the quality lies. Raw milk contains about 300 different bacteria and about 70 different yeasts. And the interesting thing is they're what give regional cheese its character, but they also help protect the milk. And in this picture, on the left, you see raw milk, and on the right, pasteurized. Both left out for the same number of days, and you can see what happened. But talking about yeast, let's move on to artisan bread world. Whether you're a baker or a bread seller or just a passionate foodie who likes a good loaf, sourdough is where it's at. Sourdough is the peak of artisan baking. It's the most natural, the most extreme, and the most non-interventionist. You don't add yeast for sourdough. You just give it enough time and a warm place. It feels like something from the past. You just let the bacteria get on and do their thing. And then in return, they give you complexity, they give you flavor, and they give you sourness. The taste is pungent and acidic. It's the flavor that sits up and barks. A good sourdough doesn't come quietly. But is this a flavor that's only enjoyed by bearded hippies with hair shirts, or that no right-thinking person would want in their home? No, quite the opposite. If you go to any farmer's market or even a high-end supermarket, the sourdough products are always the premium products. If you go to the best pizza joint in town, you can pretty much guarantee that their dough will be a sourdough. Doesn't matter whether it's Italy, the US, the UK. I even find this in the Netherlands where I live. But when you start to look, sour flavors are everywhere. Take Russia and Poland's most famous soup, borscht, which is properly made with a ferment of beetroot and rye, which gives it a seriously salty, acidic kick. But one of my favorite sour experiences is actually Oude Geuze beers, which come from the Zena Valley in Belgium. And Oude Geuze is a type of lambic that's made with wild yeasts. It's generally two yeasts that are involved, Brettanomyces bruxellensis and Brettanomyces lambicus. Ardachers are unique. They are wild, farmyardy, sour. All that Brett is damn tasty. Here's the thing. I don't see beer bloggers or journalists slagging off sour beer for being faulty or for being a con trick or a fad. Quite the opposite. Beer pundits, I think, recognize that sour beers are a tradition that has its place. But let's look at craft beer world in general, which has transformed the experience of having a pint. Craft brewing is about flavor, it's not about brand. And the more extreme, the better. More hops, more alcohol, more bizarre added ingredients, more oak, more bacteria. The last thing craft brewers want to do is blend in. They want their beers to be different, to stand out from the crowd. And that's fantastic if you're a customer because you get excitement, you get variety, you get innovation. I find it strange that in our world, in wine world, we sometimes seem to value conformity and sameness over excitement. We get really worried if there's a flavor that we think shouldn't be there, if it's cloudy, if it's not supermarket perfect. I sometimes feel that the wine press and trade seem to want all the individuality polished out of a wine. I find this so boring. Another undercurrent for me is that bacteria is good. If you look at so many well-loved artisan foods, they're all about using wild, uncontrolled bacteria to create intense flavors. Sourdough, surströmming, lambic, sauerkraut. That's what makes them exciting. I also like wines, where the winemaker allows wild, uncontrolled bacteria to do its thing. Brettanomyces, acetic acid, unexpected wild yeasts, they can all create wonderful flavors if you let them. Why should wine be a sanitized, homogeneous experience any more than proper cheese, bread, or wine? Here's an example. This is a wine from Emilia-Romagna, made with a lot of skin contact. The 2009 was absolutely loaded with Brett, and it was pretty volatile as well. It shouldn't work, but it does. It's delicious. And if you don't believe me, try it. Blending in is for losers. The thing is, the best thing when you encounter a wine like that is just to forget everything you ever learned. The only thing that matters is, does it taste great? Is it a taste experience? Is it fun flavors? Blending in is for losers. We should celebrate flavor difference wherever we find it. There's enough bland, hygienic mediocrity in this world. Everyone here is a wine professional, a wine lover, a wine connoisseur, or maybe all three. We shouldn't be arguing for wines that blend in. We should be adventurous, daring, and different. If we can't be, who the hell can?